Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk about filling out the Common App Activities section with extra tips and some examples. A Guide to the Common App. I remember this time last year, I was buried in college apps. Although the process initially seemed super daunting, I'm glad I stuck with it, and I know you will too. As regular application deadlines for colleges approach, I hope to pass along super helpful tips I received from admissions officers and alums at my dream schools. I believe these tips helped me get into MIT, Princeton, Caltech, and Columbia. I prepared 3 general tips for the entire application, 4 tips for completing the activity section, and examples from my actual application. Imagine you are watching the admissions officers in the debating room, where the admissions officers are actively discussing why a student should or should not be selected. You want to present yourself through your college app as accurately as possible, but also stand out from so many applicants. So, thinking from the perspective of the admissions officers who will read your application will be helpful. In order to do this, my first tip for the entire application is, number 1, use simple vocab. After reading thousands of applications, the admissions officers will better understand applications that use simple vocabulary, rather than big, complicated words that we don't use daily. Number 2, create a theme. Presenting yourself using a theme helps the admissions officers build a clearer portrait of the applicant. For example, my theme was an aspiring scientist who's passionate about art and promoting cultural diversity. I tried to reflect this theme throughout my application, including the activities section of the Common App, which we'll look at together today. Number 3, don't be shy to add extra information in the additional info section. At the end of the Common App, there's an additional information section. And you can use this space to add anything that didn't particularly fit in the rest of the Common App. For example, if you're enrolled in a college-level course, or if you're involved in signature programs at your high schools, or if there are any awards or recognitions that you couldn't squeeze into the honors section, you can write it all in this additional info section. Now, here are 4 tips specifically for the activities section of the Common App. Tip number 1, order activities from most to least important. Admissions officers might not take the time to read all of your activities, so try to prioritize and write your most important activities first. And if possible, try to fill up all 10 activities. For example, towards the top, write activities that fit your theme, where you won awards, spent the most time, or activities that you simply feel the most passionate about. For example, someone who is passionate about science might fill the top half with science-related activities, then add secondary passions like art and cultural diversity-related activities later. Or, someone who is an aspiring professional athlete might fill the top half with athletic activities like cross-country or swimming, then add secondary interests underneath, such as writing for the school newspaper. Tip number 2, keep it simple, but squeeze as much as you can into the description section. The description section only holds up to 150 characters, so use bullet point phrases and simple action verbs. If I had leftover characters, I added awards related to the activity that didn't fit into the honors section of the Common App. But don't worry if you can't fit everything. Remember general tip number 3. You can always use the additional information section to fit more awards. Tip number 3, don't exaggerate hours and be authentic. During the weekday, I spent about 2 hours per day on extracurriculars. And during the weekend, I spent about 5 hours per day, for a maximum total of about 20 hours per week, which sounded reasonable to me. A tip is to count up all the hours you spend for a week of activities, and make sure there's enough hours left in the day for when you are in school, asleep, and studying. We want to present ourselves genuinely. Again, imagine that your application is actively being debated on by the admissions officers on your behalf. If something doesn't make sense, the admissions officers could get a negative impression that can unfavorably impact the rest of your application. So we want to present ourselves and how we spend our time as genuinely as possible. Tip number 4. Show continued interest in your activities. The activities section of the Common App also asks whether you intend to continue doing this particular extracurricular activity in college. Generally, I said yes, that I intend to continue. You can look up if the college has clubs or organizations that focus on that activity. However, I do remember that I wrote that I didn't intend to do Science Olympiad in college because I mistakenly thought it was only a high school activity. Apparently, several colleges also have Science Olympiad clubs where they mentor high schoolers in their area. So don't make the same mistake that I did, and make sure to research your colleges on the web before writing your intent to continue or not to continue your activities at college. And now, here are a few example activities that were related to my theme of being an aspiring scientist who is passionate about the arts and cultural diversity. As you can see, I participated in art for all 4 years of high school, during all of the calendar year for about 7 hours a week for 43 weeks of the year. This includes the time I spent at lessons and completing my art homework at home. If you studied art at school, you can include the time spent in class and completing homework at home. The continue means that I intend to continue art in college. As you can see in the heading, I made sure to clarify that I do both traditional and digital art via different studios. And in the description, I wrote specifically which mediums of art I used. In the remaining character space, I included art awards. This activity shows another aspect of my theme, which is my passion for promoting cultural diversity in my community. I participated in this activity for my junior and senior years because I founded this club right before junior year. To show my passion for science, I included this activity. And to show my passion for science and math in another way, I included this volunteering activity. For most seniors, juggling college apps on top of schoolwork as college deadlines approach seem really daunting. But hang in there, the end is in sight, and spring will greet you with good news. I hope my admitted college apps for Princeton, Columbia, MIT, and Caltech can be helpful in how to make your college apps stand out, yet truly portray you as a strong applicant who the admissions officers want to select. I'm making a future video about preparing for interviews and the mid-year report, so please like, leave a comment, or subscribe for more college-related videos. I hope this video is helpful, and best wishes to everyone watching this.